Good morning. We are now on the record at 9:29 a.m., July 9th, 2021. Please note that the microphones are sensitive and may pick up whispering and private conversations. Please mute your microphone whenever possible. Audio and video recording will continue to take place unless all parties agree to go off the record. This is Media Unit 1 of the video recorded deposition of Stephanie Benton, taken on behalf of the New York State Attorney General's Office, independent investigation under New York State Executive Law, Section 63, in paren 8. My name is Robert Rudis from the firm Veritex Legal Solutions, and I am the videographer. Our court reporter today is Dawn Matera, also from the firm Veritex Legal Solutions. This deposition is being held remotely. I am not related to any party in this action, nor am I financially interested in the outcome. Counsel will please now state their appearances and affiliations for the record. If there are any objections to proceeding, please state them at the time of your appearance, beginning with the noticing attorney.
June Kim from Cleary, Gottlieb, Steen, and Hamilton, appearing in my capacity as a Special Deputy to the First Deputy Attorney General.
Andrew Weaver, Cleary, Gottlieb, appearing as my capacity as Special Assistant to the First Deputy Attorney General, State of New York.
Charlotte Chun, similarly from Cleary, Gottlieb, on behalf of the New York Attorney General.
Gregory Morvillo on behalf of Ms. Benton from Morvillo PLLC. I am joined today by my paralegal who is sitting across the room on his iPhone, not paying any attention to this.
Diane Ferrone on behalf of Ms. Benton, the law offices of Diane Ferrone, PLLC.
I just wanted to let you know, June, that there was somebody else in the room today, because yesterday you asked if there was. There is somebody else in the room today, but I believe he got his AirPods in and is not paying attention.
Okay, appreciate it.
And I just remind Ms. Benton that you're still under oath.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Benton, thank you. Ms. Benton, since we broke yesterday, other than your lawyers, have you spoken with anyone about your testimony?
Not about my testimony, no.
When we broke yesterday, we were talking about Charlotte Bennett. Did there come a time that when you learned that Charlotte Bennett had raised concerns with Jill DeRosier about conversations she had had with the governor?
Yeah. I had a conversation, the first conversation I had with Jill was that Charlotte was no longer comfortable staffing the governor and that she was going to be moving to a policy position that she had been wanting to transition to for a while.
Okay. And when did you learn this? About when did you learn that she said she was no longer comfortable staffing the government?
I believe it was in June. I don't remember exactly where in June that conversation fell, but that was the first conversation I had.
Okay. And prior to that conversation with Jill, had you heard anything on that subject?
No, not prior to that conversation.
So Charlotte hadn't spoken to you about it?
She had not.
Okay. And so tell me what you remember about that conversation. How did Jill reach out to you?
I remember her calling me.
And where were you when she called you?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay. You were in the office, you think?
I don't remember where I was.
Okay. So Jill called you, and what did she say?
She said pretty much verbatim what I said, which is Charlotte was no longer staffing. She had been wanting to transition from the briefing position into what she believed would be a more substantive position, and that she was going to be moving into this policy position. I recall in the within the health team in the chamber, so a health policy position.
And I believe you said she said that she was no longer comfortable staffing the governor.
Yes.
Did Jill say to you what Charlotte Bennett said about why she was no longer comfortable staffing the governor?
Not that I recall.
Did you ask?
No, I don't remember asking.
So that wasn't something you wanted to know?
I mean, in the time, it wasn't something that I thought about.
Mm-hmm. Was that unusual? Someone saying, I no longer want to staff the governor?
No, it's not unusual for someone to say they don't want to staff anymore. You know, as we talked about yesterday, there have been many people who have done that job, and one of those reasons is that they sort of want to move on from that job.
Was it unusual that she had raised it with Jill first without raising it with you?
No, in Jill's role as chief of staff, you know, she handled those sort of staffing issues. She would have been the one to talk to about moving out of staffing. She would have been the one to talk to about the potential for a different position.
And what was your relationship with Charlotte Bennett like at this time?
It was fine. It was pleasant.
Were you friendly with her? Was she friendly with you?
I would use the word pleasant. I don't, you know, I wouldn't call her a friend, but it was perfectly pleasant as I recall.
And substantively, she worked or reported to you, correct?
No. She continued, much like many of the people who help out in this role, in her position as briefer. No, I'm not sure who the briefers report to, but likely the chief of staff.
But in terms of providing help in the executive assistant role, or you know, the staffing the governor and helping him in the capacity that we talked about yesterday, you sort of help oversee that role, correct?
Yes, I would ask her to help out if there was a need.
But when Jill told you that she said she no longer felt comfortable staffing the governor, you weren't curious to know why?
Not in that moment.
Okay. How about later?
I don't know that there was a moment that I was curious.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand, because it seems natural that you're working with someone, in their functioning, you know, there may be other people that she reports to, but you're certainly someone that is overseeing a part of her work. You see her presumably on a regular basis, and you're told she's no longer comfortable staffing the governor, she's getting moved. A natural question would be, why? What happened?
Well, look, that's a natural question for you.
So that's what I'm asking. Right?
That's what I'm saying. You know, okay. You said it's a natural question. I'm saying I'm not sure it's a natural question. You can ask her if it's a natural question.
Greg, I appreciate your views. You're not the witness or under oath, so
I understand.
That's her answer. That's her answer. But I just want to
understand. But you know, your commentary isn't testimony either, and so
I was leading into a question, but trying to explain it. Okay, so if I can start again. It would seem a natural question for someone who works with someone and hears that they are no longer comfortable staffing the governor to ask, Why? What happened? Is that not something that you asked or considered asking?
Not in that moment, not after that conversation. It was, we were still in the height of COVID, and Jill was calling me so that I knew that Charlotte would no longer be someone that I could call on to ask for help.
Okay. Well, did she call? Was it just you on the phone with Jill?
Yes, on that call.
Do you know if she was telling other people as well, Jill?
I don't know if she did.
Do you know if she spoke to Melissa DeRosa?
I mean, I do now. I don't. At that time, she didn't tell me that she was telling other people, that I recall.
Okay. At the time, you didn't know. And then when you learned that, what did you do with that information?
I didn't do anything.
Did you tell the governor?
I don't recall telling the governor.
Okay. And did you tell Melissa DeRosa?
I don't recall telling Melissa.
Okay. You don't remember? You remember talking to Melissa DeRosa about it?
I do.
What do you remember?
Well, at some point, I don't remember specifically talking to Melissa about this initial call, which was that she was transitioning. At some point, I recall Melissa and I having a conversation with Judy Mogul.
When was that?
I don't know specifically. I think maybe a few days after the call with Jill.
Mm-hmm. And what led to that call?
After Jill initially had spoken to Charlotte, my understanding is that Judy sat with Charlotte. I don't remember if Jill participated in that conversation or not. And Judy, I think, at length spoke with Charlotte about what her discomfort was, and they had, I think, a pretty extensive conversation.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, did they report to you some of the more of the details around what had happened?
Yes, that's the call that I recall with Melissa, with Judy telling us about Charlotte's discomfort and the things that she said to Judy, some of the things she said to Judy.
Mm-hmm. And what did you learn about what Charlotte Bennett said?
Can I just ask a question of you, June? Has the executive committee waived privilege over this issue? Because I don't want to stumble headlong into that problem.
To be honest, I don't understand the lines that have been drawn. Certainly, as you've seen notes from Judy Mogul of what she learned from Charlotte Bennett have been produced. They're pretty close to verbatim. They're very detailed. They've testified about, what their assessment of the credibility of Charlotte Bennett. So, in some ways, yes, we do already know, without hiding the ball, what it is she told them, what Charlotte Bennett told them at the time. I don't know I believe communication of the facts of what they learned has been waived and permitted.
Okay,
If there's advice that they gave, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I just don't
That's
want to, I don't want to walk out of here later on and, and then realize that we ended up talking about something, putting it aside, that you may have learned about that conversation from, for example, Ms. Bennett, right? That would be one thing. And I'm definitely not asking you to tell me, who you learned about it from, but if there are people that work for the executive committee who you have interviewed and they have told you about this conversation, I'm comfortable going forward with it. If not, then I think maybe I should call somebody over at the chamber and just make sure, because like I said, I don't want to make a mistake here. So if you're comfortable representing to me that that perhaps in addition to or outside of conversations you've had with Ms. Bennett, you learned about this from people who work for the executive committee without telling me who, then I'm okay with that, if that's okay with you. Otherwise, I have to talk.
Why don't we deal with this and we'll look at the other testimony at a break, and then I'll just put a pin in here.
Okay.
And then I'll move on a little bit. So, so after this discussion you had with Judy Mogul, where you got more detail about what Charlotte Bennett had said, did you speak to anyone about that, about the information you learned?
Well, yes, I spoke to Melissa about it.
Okay. And what did Melissa say?
Specifically, I don't recall what she said, but we were both, I think it's fair to say, I'll speak for myself, actually. Very surprised and I think upset is fair about the things that she was claiming had been said.
Mm-hmm. And do you know, and did you have a conversation with the governor about it?
I did not, that I recall.
Did you tell him that you learned information from Judy Mogul about what Charlotte Bennett had said?
I don't recall speaking to him about it.
Did Melissa DeRosa tell you that she spoke to the governor about it?
Yes, I think she did.
What did she tell you?
I don't remember specifically.
Generally?
I also recall that Judy may have spoken to the governor.
You learned that from, who'd you learn that from?
I don't remember.
And so going back to Melissa DeRosa, do you remember generally what she said she told the governor and what the governor told her?
No, I don't.
Do you remember Melissa DeRosa telling you that she became upset after talking to the governor about it, that she sort of stepped out of a car and left?
She did what? I'm sorry?
That she stepped out, she was in a car when she spoke to the governor about it, and then that she stepped out and left of the car?
I don't remember her saying that.
Do you remember her calling you again later the same day in the evening after she'd been drinking?
Not specifically.
Generally?
I don't remember that call.
And do you remember after that conversation with Judy Mogul whether there were any changes in practices in terms of how to staff the governor?
No, I don't remember any changes. The protocol has always been to have more than one person there. There are a handful of times where, because we couldn't find at whatever particular time more than one person, that has not been executed. But I don't recall at that time any new procedure.
But were there discussions about being more vigilant or making sure that it wasn't only one person staffing the governor?
Other than conversations with lawyers.
I don't remember specifically. There may have been.
Do you remember that being something that you did to try to make sure that it wasn't just one person staffing the governor?
I don't remember specifically making sure that that happened, but I pretty confidently say that is what has happened.
And you can confidently say that there's never been one person who staffed the governor when he's when they're helping the governor?
I would say that there have been a handful of times over the course. Oh, you're saying since Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been one or two times.
But that was something you were trying to avoid.
Yes.
And is that something you talked to Melissa about?
I don't specifically recall. I'm sure I did.
And when's the first time then that you recall talking to the governor about Charlotte Bennett's allegations?
I don't specifically remember.
How about generally?
I mean, the first time I can remember being a part of the conversation was much later. I don't know that I really spoke to him about it around that time.
And by much later, are you referring to after she went public with her allegations?
Yes.
Okay. So between June, which doesn't happen until I think late February of this year.
Right.
So between June of last year and late February of this year, you didn't speak to the governor about Charlotte Bennett?
I don't remember if I did. I don't remember a specific conversation or general conversation. I may have.
So you testified that when you learned about the things that Charlotte Bennett had said, the governor had said to her, I think you said you were upset. And so even though you were upset, it's not something you raised with the governor?
No.
What were you upset about?
Some of the things that she claims he said to her, to me could be upsetting.
Like what things?
I recall that she said he said that he would date someone as young as 22. That the sound of that didn't sit well with me. I believe she claimed that he said he wanted to ride off on a motorcycle with her. That didn't seem right. I recall Judy. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. We're on pause there.
You can actually talk about the facts that you learned from Judy, but no advice, no commentary, and no, your thought process about that. So just strictly the facts, to quote whatever that show was, Dragnet.
my recollection of that particular claim from that call with Judy was that she told Judy that he said there were times that he wanted to ride off on his motorcycle. So the claim that she makes later with that adjustment is, doesn't sound right. I'm trying to think of some other specifics.
What do you mean by that? What adjustment are you talking about?
As I recall Judy relaying to us, to Melissa and myself on that telephone call, one of the things she said Charlotte told her was that the governor at times wanted to ride off on his motorcycle. I recall later on when Charlotte is interviewed, at some point he said to her, I want to ride off with you on my motorcycle. So in my mind,
You thought you've heard her say that this is one of the TV interviews, or?
I recall it from somewhere. I don't know if it was a newspaper story or an interview.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those things is much different than the other. I can't immediately recall all of her specific.
How about her saying that the governor asked her whether she'd been with an older man? You remember that? You remember being told that?
I do.
And how did that sit with you?
That one sits with me differently based on what I knew then, know now, knew before, about his own personal experience.
And what is that?
He has a family member who actually is a survivor of an assault that apparently virtually mirrors Charlotte's experience while she was in college. And I know that the governor has gone through a lot of issues, circumstances, situations post assault. And I think that is, based on my understanding, one of the sorts of behaviors that a survivor may turn to.
But by that behavior, you mean being with older men?
Correct.
And so that...
When I heard that one, I didn't think of it as an invitation. I thought of it as something that in his experience and with his knowledge, he knows is something that is a possibility.
And so that sat with you differently because your knowledge of the governor's prior experience.
Yes.
And even though the governor, you heard, also said that he was willing to have a relationship with a woman as young as 22.
Yes, and when we talked about that statement, I said that one did not sit well with me.
Did you learn that the governor, or she said that the governor also said that he was lonely during the pandemic?
I recall that she claimed that, yes.
And also that that he asked her about whether she had really hugged anyone recently during the pandemic.
I don't specifically recall that one.
or when she said, yeah, I've hugged like family, and or
Sorry, can you repeat that?
when she talked about hugging family, the governor said, no, not like that, a real hug.
I don't remember that claim.
And then do you remember learning that the governor had said she looked like Daisy Duke with jean shorts?
I don't remember that.
Anything else you remember then learning about the details of what Charlotte Bennett had said?
Not specifically at that time. I mean, Judy may have given more, but I don't specifically remember.
Did Judy say whether or not she found Charlotte Bennett to be credible?
That we're asserting privilege over through the executive committee.
Okay.
Or the executive committee asserting privilege.
Okay.
It's not my privilege to assert.
All right. And then, other than Melissa DeRosa, did you have any conversations with anyone else about what you learned the governor had said to Charlotte Bennett?
Well, Judy, at that time, I don't recall.
Did you speak with Jill?
I don't know that I ever spoke with Jill about the specifics. I knew that Jill was involved in the conversation.
Did you consider, it sounds like some of what you learned did not sit well with you. Some, it sounds like you maybe understood more. Did you consider reporting this to anyone?
I did not.
Why not?
It was my understanding that Judy, in her capacity as counsel, was handling the issue.
Do you know if Goer was consulted at all, or whether this was reported to Goer at the time?
I do not know.
And this was just when you first learned about the fact that Charlotte was no longer comfortable staffing the governor. Did you learn that the conversation that had led to that had been just, a week or so earlier?
Oh, you mean the conversation that Charlotte had with the governor?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I don't know that I knew that.
Okay. And I know you've said you're not great with dates. So I'm trying to put some timing around it. And presume now you obviously know a bit more from the reporting about what the conversation was, and where it happened, etc. Do you remember now, or at any point do you remember looking back and saying, "All right, it was that day, when I saw her come out of the office," or where you, in your mind, pieced together the day she had her conversation with the governor?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Are you asking if she is relying on the press reports to tell her when something happened, or are you asking if having read stuff that refreshes her recollection as to when it happens?
Yeah, more the second. But I'm saying more. She says she had this conversation. Kind of now know from reporting about when it was. She has said that she ran into Ms. Benton coming out, or at least one of those conversations. And so I'm trying to now explore with you what you remember about the actual conversations that she said happened. You weren't in there, but you were, I think, in at least one of them. outside of the office where she said she ran into you after she left. So trying to explore your memory of that, of those days.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that, she's not relying on the press, who I personally consider to be totally.
Yeah, no, I understand it. I've asked it in a somewhat convoluted way, but it's only because I'm assuming she doesn't remember. On June 5th, I remember I saw Charlotte Bennett work out. So I'm trying to put it in context.
Yeah, so if the press helps you remember when it happened, or the context around it.
Or either the press or learning on
From
when Jill first raised it with you, that was closer in time, and whether you remember, oh yeah, I remember seeing her the week before or not, or so that's what I'm asking.
I mean, the conversation we had yesterday about Charlotte coming out of the office on a particular day and me asking if she had gotten an answer to a question that we needed an answer to. I remember that happening clearly. I couldn't tell you when it was. I couldn't tell you if it was a week before.
I see.
Jill
So the one conversation you told us about yesterday is the only one you remember of having a conversation of that type where you ask. Well, let me ask you another way. Do you remember ever Charlotte Bennett coming out of the office and you asking, why were you in there so long? What were you talking about?
No, not in those words, but I believe this is the same conversation I had with her.
Okay.
Where I asked her if she had gotten the answer to the question, and she said no. And I said, we got to capitalize on, our opportunities with him. And I do recall saying to her, what were you talking about? What's going on? Anything to know? Because I often say to people who come out, anything I need to know. And I recall her saying, we were talking about his leadership in COVID.
Anything else you remember her saying?
No, I don't recall her saying very much at all. It was a pretty quick conversation as I remember it.
Okay. Do you remember her also mentioning her expressing her views about the governor's response to Black Lives Matter?
In that specific conversation, or ever?
Or well, let's start with that specific conversation.
Her expressing her views on Black Lives Matter?
Yes, to the governor.
No, I don't ever remember that.
Okay, not ever.
Never.
And when she walked out on that occasion that you remember, did she seem upset?
No, not that I recall.
And is that time you remember, do you believe that that was also close in time to June of 2020 when you had the conversation with Jill?
I can't tell you for sure. It could have been, but it also could have been May.
Do you remember whether on that occasion she had originally gone in to take dictation along with?
I don't remember. No, I think that the conversation that I'm recalling that we're discussing was when she was in the building very, very early one morning. He arrived very early, unless I'm mixing them up. And I got to the office while she was in there. That's my recollection.
I see. That recollection is coming in really early. Was it a weekend? Do you remember?
I don't remember. It could have been.
And she was already there. And then do you remember leaving and going to the mansion after seeing that she was there to cover to staff the governor?
I think we may be talking about different situations, different days, perhaps. I know what we're talking about, but I don't know that was the same day.
Okay. So why don't you tell me what you remember? It sounds like you remember at least one incident. Also, early morning, you went in. She was there. She went in to speak to the governor. She came out, and you asked whether she had asked a question that you needed an answer to. She said no, and you said you need to capitalize. You don't know whether that's how long before the Jill conversation or not.
I don't.
So that's one.
Yeah.
And then you're saying that there may be another one that my questions seem to be getting at. So what do you remember about another interaction?
There was, and I believe this was a weekend day, and I believe this was in June, because I recall the governor saying, you guys need to take a break. You know, it had been many, 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 many days in a row. So Melissa and I decided we were going to get out of the office for an hour or whatever the case may be. And I don't know if I had seen Charlotte in the building prior to this, or knew that she was there somehow, or if I called her, or if I called other people. But Charlotte was in the Capitol at that time. So I asked her to come and sit at my desk in the event that he wanted to get somebody on the phone, or somebody was trying to get him on the phone. And she did do that. And Melissa and I left the office for a bit.
And where did you go?
My recollection is that we went to a store.
And during the time COVID, were you staying at the mansion during the pandemic?
I did for a period of time.
And from when to when?
Let's see. I think late March. To maybe early summer through, and then sort of on and off after that.
And what bedroom did you use when you stayed there?
Well, how would you like me to describe?
Which floor?
The second floor.
And who else stayed on the second floor with you when you were there?
Melissa did. The governor's suite is on the second floor as well.
So on the second floor, it's the governor's suite, and then you were staying there, and Melissa was staying in another room.
Yes.
And so going back to, so other than those two interactions you remember with Charlotte Bennett in the office, any others that around that time period?
Not specifically.
Do you remember sometime after you learned from Jill that Charlotte would no longer be staffing the governor, there being a party at the mansion sometime shortly after that?
The timing for me is not clear on that. There was a party at the mansion on June 19th.
Yeah, so on the June 19th party, what was that party for?
June 19th was the 111th straight day of COVID briefings. It was his last daily briefing. A very emotional day, I think, for everybody, good and bad. And we had a little bit of a cookout outside the mansion for the senior staff, some of the more junior staff, some of the assistants, really a group of people who just worked every single day for that period of time.
And so who was invited to that?
The senior staff was all invited. Do you want me to name them?
No, how about in terms of the senior staff who were in Albany at the time?
Correct.
Was Charlotte Bennett invited to it?
She was.
Was there any discussion with anyone about whether or not to invite her?
I don't remember for this one if I showed the governor a list of people. I may have. Melissa and I may have discussed the list.
And do you remember the governor saying anything about the list?
I don't recall him saying anything.
How about Charlotte Bennett?
I don't recall him saying anything.
And by that point in time, you knew Charlotte Bennett had moved or was moving and was not going to staff the governor anymore.
I can't say that for certain. I don't remember the sequence of events.
So that you don't remember it being after or before.
Correct.
Do you remember seeing Charlotte Bennett at the event?
I do.
And what do you remember about that?
I mean, nothing particularly noteworthy. She was there. She was there with other more junior staff people. I think, people that she's friendly with socially. And I just remember it being a really lovely gathering and people being happy, relieved, appreciating each other.
Did you see Charlotte Bennett interact with the governor?
I don't recall specifically.
And then after the party, did Charlotte Bennett reach out to you, send you an email?
Yes, I do remember that.
What do you remember about that?
I remember her sending a very nice and kind email to Melissa and myself, thanking us for, what we do.
And does that jog your memory as to whether the party was after she was leaving or before it?
It doesn't.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the email was, I'm leaving now, so here's an email saying thank you. No.
No, I don't recall it saying that she was leaving. I think it was reflective of the emotion and the gratitude we just sort of all had as a collective at that gathering.
Okay, so if you want to turn to tab 51 of the binder.
Jeez.
Does this look like the email?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's nicer than I remember.
It is a nice
Even
email.
nicer. Yes.
Yes. But it's not necessarily the case that in your mind, that this is more likely after she was leaving or not, because it could just be the event in your mind that.
You're talking about the subject line?
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely, she had left the gathering.
She had left the gathering before you had left.
Or before I had left,
Right.
yeah. Before
But you're saying the also just the niceness of it and the tone, that's not necessary because she had left. You're saying it could also just be because of what the environment at the party was and what it was about.
That's exactly right. There were toasts given to these staff members at the party. Melissa gave an especially emotional toast. She cried during it, thanking, all of these people, not just the senior staff. She called them, our own essential workers. It was very nice.
Have you had discussions since then with anyone about this email? Since Charlotte Bennett's allegations became public?
Other than lawyers.
other than with the lawyers? Your lawyer?
I don't remember having a conversation about the email.
Okay, so it sounds like, or you testified earlier, from the time you learn about her being saying she's no, Jill telling you she's no longer going to staff the governor, and then you're learning more about what she said from Judy Mogul. Sounds like a conversation with Melissa DeRosa. And you say you don't remember speaking to the governor about it. Between that time and late February, when her allegations become public, any conversations with anyone about Charlotte Bennett?
Prior to the publishing of the New York Times article, which I recall was the first interview she did, again, we had the press inquiry, and there was a call with a group of people to discuss the press inquiry that I, again, probably facilitated the dial-in, and remember hearing some of that call.
Okay. And when you say a press inquiry, what do you mean? Press inquiry prior to the New York Times coming out?
Yeah, I mean, the way it works, and I don't mean to explain to you certainly, but a story is being worked on. The press then comes to the press office and says, I'm working on this story. Here's what it could, will, might say. What do you have to say about it?
Mm-hmm. So within a few days prior to the actual publishing of the article?
Likely. I don't know how long the Times was working on it. I don't remember how much notice they had given us, but likely within a few days.
So that press inquiry came in, and then you helped set up some calls?
I remember a call before that.
A call before that. What do you remember about the call before that?
That Judy had, is this okay?
Fact only.
That Judy had gone through her notes, so that we knew what Judy had recorded Charlotte had said to her at the time.
Okay. And how did that call get set up?
I don't remember specifically. Do you
And
mean
why? You said it was before the press inquiry. So why was it before the New York?
I'm sorry, then I misspoke. As a result of the press inquiry.
I see. A press inquiry came in. The call was set up. The press inquiry made clear it was about Charlotte Bennett. So a call was set up, and Judy Mogul read her notes.
She discussed her notes. I don't know if she read them all. I don't know.
And who was on that call?
I don't remember specifically, other than Melissa. And I'm sure Rich and Peter, but I don't know who else.
The governor?
I don't believe he was on that call.
Was Liz Smith on the call?
I don't remember if Liz was on that call.
Josh Vlasto?
I don't remember if Josh was on that call.
Rich Bamberger?
I don't remember if Bamberger was on that call.
Steve Cohn?
I don't specifically remember Steve.
So what do you remember about what Judy said on that call?
Generally, I remember that she went through, she explained to the people on the phone that she had this conversation with Charlotte and that she had made notes about what Charlotte had said. And she went through some of what Charlotte had claimed to Judy way back when in that conversation.
And was she just literally reading from the notes, as far as you could tell, of her conversation with Charlotte Bennett?
It seemed so.
So was there anything in your mind that was new or different than what you had heard from Judy when you spoke to her in June?
I do think there were additional pieces that I had not heard before.
What were some of the additional pieces?
I can't remember specifically, but I remember thinking that I hadn't heard this piece before. I can't remember specifically.
And what was your reaction to hearing these additional pieces and the full story?
Well, without being able to specifically remember the additional pieces, I can't really explain my reaction.
And then what happened after that call?
Can I go back for a second?
Sure.
There is a piece from, aside from her specific additional or not claims, there was a piece that Judy had said in that call from her notes that she hadn't, that wasn't a part of the previous conversation we had, which was that Charlotte had explicitly said she didn't want to file a complaint. The governor is my friend. I just want to go to this new job. So that was a piece that I don't believe Judy had said to me previously.
That was something new.
Yes, I think that's when I heard that the first time.
Okay. Did you hear that she had also said that she was afraid of the governor?
I don't think I heard that.
And what else? What did you do after that call?
I don't know that I did anything after that call.
Okay. Did you set up any other calls, or were you part of any other calls?
I don't recall other specific calls.
Any discussions with the governor about Charlotte Bennett's allegations?
After the reporting, there were discussions.
Okay. What discussions with the governor after the reporting?
I recall a discussion, I think just before he had a press conference where he spoke about, I don't know that he spoke, yes, I think he did speak about Charlotte in particular, but it may have been more about, than just about Charlotte. I'm sorry. In any event, there was a discussion where he, with some additional folks, so in other words, in addition to Melissa and myself, who knew a bit about the history, sort of shared with people what he had been through personally with.
And who were the people who knew this?
Who knew it previously?
Yeah.
I did, Melissa did. Outside of family and
No lawyers.
no lawyers?
No.
Outside of family, I don't know who else knew.
So who did you share it with after
I
the?
certainly didn't share it with anyone. The governor spoke about it.
I see. The governor spoke about it.
He spoke about it generally, that he had this experience in his life with how devastating it had been, how traumatic it had been, how he still struggles with it every day. He thought that he was, being paternalistic. He thought he knew, patterns of behavior. He wanted to help. Charlotte had come to him and said she was writing a speech that she wanted to give to a group. I think it was at a college, I'm not certain. And talk about her experience, and he was trying to encourage her. But it was an emotional moment because he was sharing the story with other staff members who were, I think, pretty shocked to hear even generally about it.
And what did he say had happened to?
That when had been the victim of a sexual assault, and that he that he fought long and hard because he was not being helpful or even really facilitating efforts to, find some sort of justice in the matter.
And he said that experience affected the way he was interacting with Charlotte Bennett. Is that what he was saying?
Yeah, I think I could say pretty verbatim that he said he heard what Charlotte said. He saw.
And did the governor then tie that to the things that Charlotte Bennett said he said? Did he tie it directly to any of his statements?
I don't remember him talking about it specifically.
So he didn't say, as a result of that, that's why I said this.
I don't remember him doing that.
Like, for example, that that he would be comfortable dating someone 22, as young as 22. That he didn't tie that to his experience with.
I don't remember him getting into specifics about specific claims.
Any other than in that group setting, have you had any discussions with the governor about Charlotte Bennett's allegations?
I have had additional conversations with him, but virtually the same conversation.
Mm-hmm. And your other conversations with him, were they one-on-one or with other groups of people as well?
I may have talked about it one-on-one. It may have been him and Melissa and myself. But that conversation about him hearing Charlotte's experience and seeing, really just seeing his, I've had with him a few times.
Any other discussions with him about any of the specific allegations?
I don't recall ever talking to him about specific allegations, specific claims.
So no discussions about, what did you mean
No,
driving a motorcycle to the mountain? What do you mean? Nothing like that.
I have never said those things to him.
Or heard him address any of the specific allegations?
Not that I recall.
And then after the reporting, did you reach out to other former members of the executive chamber about Charlotte Bennett?
Not that I recall.
Did you reach out to Andrew Ball?
About Charlotte Bennett?
Yeah.
Not that I recall.
Or did you have any conversation with Andrew Ball where Charlotte Bennett came up?
I don't remember that I did.
Anyone else? Or anyone?
I don't remember talking to anybody about Charlotte.
And then did you play a role in working on or drafting or responses or statements that the governor might make?
Not in drafting, no.
Okay, how about in typing up statements?
Yes, I'm sure I did.
Okay. So if you want to look at...
It's going to be it's going to be a long section because we've been on for an hour and change. So if we could take a break at some point.
And I never say this, but I'd appreciate the ladies' room.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let's take a break.
Thank you.
Okay.
Off the record at 10:34, this marks the end of media unit number 1. We are back on the record. Did you want to wait?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
We are back on the record at 10:45. This marks the beginning of media unit number 2. Please proceed.
Thank you. So Ms. Benton, can you turn to tab 87? in your binder. And this is a series of emails back and forth among a group of people that includes you and others, and looks to be different drafts of possible statements that the governor will make in response to Charlotte Bennett's allegations. You
Yes.
see that? Okay. So an exchange like this, where you're on, what do you, what's your involvement in sort of this back and forth of comments and drafts?
Unless this was drafted by the governor, and it doesn't look like this particular one was, I don't really have any involvement.
Mm-hmm. How can you tell if it was drafted by the governor?
Because they're being sent from different people. So if you want my interpretation of this, it is this group of people on an email proposing a draft for him to look at.
Mm-hmm. And then at some point, do you then, because he doesn't have emails, right? So he's not on the chain.
Correct.
For him to look at, how does it ultimately get to him to look at it, an email chain like this?
Yeah, that would explain why I'm on it, because ultimately I would print it for him.
And how would that work? Would you print all the exchanges and bring it into him, or would you wait until it gets to a certain point and someone says show it to him, or how did that work?
Yes, the latter.
I see. At some point, either by someone will say, okay, now let's show it to him, unless it's something he drafted first.
That's right.
Okay. And so if you go in the middle here, and Melissa DeRosa, if you look at 66 at the bottom, she proposes a different approach. Ms. Bennett came to work in the governor's office for a short period of time. During her time in the office, she told the governor she had been a victim of sexual assault, et cetera, et cetera. Do you know where Melissa DeRosa is getting the information to propose a different approach like this?
I don't know.
Okay. And so in exchange like this, you're not, well, let me ask you, are you particularly focused on the substance, or are you sort of waiting to see at some point, do I need to print it out and give it to the governor?
The latter.
And then, so if you can look at tab 91.
Yes.
And here, this one starts with an email from you to Pollock and Josh Blastow.
Yes.
And there's a draft for the governor to say at a press conference tomorrow, and there's an again long text. What's your interpretation of this? Is this something that the governor would have given you to draft or type up and then you're forwarding to people?
For this one, yes.
Okay. Then if you can kind of flip over to 92, although I'm going to come back to 91, but 92 is image of a BlackBerry pin.
Yes.
And it looks like it's from Mark.2, but I think we've seen from other BlackBerry pins that that's the governor.
Yes.
Okay. Why is he Mark.2?
It's his middle name.
Oh, okay. And what's the .2?
I think the 2 is, I think it's just a new contact.
Because you may have had one before. Something.
Yeah, or just Mark before.
And so here, this is also March 1. He sends you a pin with some substance, told the female reporter to eat the whole sausage. And then, but that's, it's part of, there's a paragraph like that in the email too, as well. So what are you doing when if you're getting pins from him like this, what do you do with it?
I don't know on this because is this the entire message? If you know.
It appears to be, or at least this page. Oh wait, if you go to the next one, if you look at the second page of 92, you'll see it's from Mark.2 to you. Context, in fact, is also important. A press report said, etc. It looks like it's the entire pin.
I don't know with this one because usually there is an instruction on what he intends for his message. Like to send it to someone or to put it into a document. I can't tell you on this particular one.
Okay. So usually in the pin, he will try to communicate what he wants you to do with whatever text is in there.
Correct.
So if you stay on 91, and look at page 78 at the bottom, or 10078, Melissa DeRosa says, plus adding some people, this would be for presser tomorrow. Do you remember a press conference in early March following Charlotte Bennett's allegations?
Generally.
And what do you remember about that?
That he addressed allegations at a press conference.
And where were you when he was at that press conference?
Probably in my office, watching it on the computer.
And who were you? Were there other people around you who were watching it?
No.
No. Okay. So if you're in your office in the Capitol, it's just you.
It's just me.
And then you have to go to the other room with
Correct.
And
at that time, they're still in the suite across the hall.
I see. So they're actually even further away.
Correct.
And this was the press conference, I believe, where one of the things he said is, "I've never touched anyone inappropriately."
Yes, I recall that.
Yeah. Do you remember getting anyone's reaction in the office following that press conference?
I don't.
Did you see anyone, like either during or right after the press conference?
Not that I remember, other than, well, right after the press conference, I would have seen the governor, Melissa, come back through, pass me to her office from the red room. I don't recall specifically who else appeared with him at this particular press conference, if anyone.
Do you remember saying anything to the governor after that press conference?
I don't remember.
Or him saying anything to you?
I don't remember.
Or Melissa saying anything to you?
No, I don't remember that.
You remember talking to any of the executive assistants about the press conference?
No, I don't remember that I did.
How about Brittany Camissa?
No.
Melissa McGrath?
No.
So any other discussions about Charlotte Bennett? Its allegations other than the ones we've talked about?
There is one other conversation that I had, and I don't know whether it was before Judy's conversation or after Judy's conversation, the initial conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And my recollection is that Jill told me that I spoke with her
Who's the her?
Jill. And told Jill that he was out socializing at a bar with a group of the younger staffers, and that there was a situation where Charlotte was talking to 2 or 3 other coworkers and became very upset and was talking about her experience at school. And I don't remember in that conversation whether Tom said to me that she spoke about the governor. My recollection is that she was upset in sharing her experience at school with these coworkers. After that, oh wait, so I'm conflating the two again. So Jill told me that had that conversation with her. I don't remember if I called or if she called me, but relayed it to me.
What did he say to you?
As I just explained is what he said to me. I don't think that Jill gave me that much detail other than had called her and said Charlotte was upset. As I recall, he said to me that they were out with a bunch of people, but that she was at some point sitting with 2 or 3 people and became upset in speaking about her experience at school.
And then you said you weren't sure whether it said that she also said her experience with the governor.
Yeah, I don't recall him saying that at that point. I don't recall him saying that she was talking about that.
And when do you think this conversation that you had with was?
It was definitely after the initial conversation with Jill about Charlotte being uncomfortable in transitioning to a new role, but I don't recall whether it was before or after I spoke with Jill. Judy and Melissa.
Okay. Certainly before the public allegations.
Yes.
So sometime after the initial call with Jill, you don't know whether it's before or after the call with Judy.
That's right.
And Jill raised it with you. Did she ask you to call?
No.
I see. She just told you, I had this conversation with.
Correct.
And so
as I recall.
So you called.
I don't remember if I called or if she called me.
And do you know why raising that with Jill?
No, I don't know what his thought process was.
And it's your recollection that it involved her experiences in college. You're not sure whether he also discussed the governor.
Correct.
Or whether he said she discussed the governor.
Correct.
And what did you do?
I don't remember him saying that at that time.
You don't remember him saying that?
I don't.
And what did you do with that information?
I don't remember if I told Melissa or not. But if I did anything, that's what I would have done.
You're not sure if you told Melissa?
I don't recall having that conversation with her.
Did you talk to the governor about it?
No.
Any other conversations about Charlotte Bennett
No, that was the other
that we haven't discussed?
No. Not that I remember.
Okay. Do you remember any discussions about people looking into or doing looking into Charlotte Bennett's background or history, including college?
No, I don't remember that.
If you look at tab 117, I think this was produced from you. So I think this is a text message to you. From Madeline.
Yes, I see it.
And it's a group chat with Melissa and you and Madeline. And she forwards, here's the what looks like a screenshot that says, do you remember getting this?
I don't.
No? Do you remember anything about
No, I never did. I don't want to sound disrespectful, but it's very rare that I read Madeline's text messages.
and why is that?
She sends a lot of stuff that isn't particularly relevant to my job.
How about Chris Cuomo?
What about?
Does he also send you links and texts?
I rarely hear from Chris.
How many calls that you were on was Chris Cuomo on, where you were discussing the response to the sexual harassment allegations?
I know that Chris was on a handful of calls. I don't recall hearing him specifically discuss the allegations in anything that I heard or was listening to, but I know that he was on some calls.
Okay. Do you remember what his view was in terms of how to respond?
Not specifically. Generally, I recall him just obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but as a brother wanting to be a defender of his brother.
Mm-hmm. How about looking into or investigating complainants like Charlotte Bennett and their history?
I don't recall being part of any conversation where this is discussed. In fact, I can tell you that despite the fact that Madeline sent me this, I don't remember ever seeing this. I wasn't aware that there was.
Have you been part of any discussions or communications about doing or finding negative information about the people in charge of the AG's office investigation?
I have not.
You know what opposition research is?
I do.
Okay. What's opposition research?
Research in the attempt to discredit a theory or an individual or a cause.
Have you heard of or been a part of any discussions about doing opposition research on, any of the lawyers involved in our investigation?
But if that comes from lawyers, I don't know about this, but if you are aware of it and it comes in a lawyer conversation, don't answer that.
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. Okay, we can sort of switch topics now. And I believe you said you attended Gareth Rhodes' wedding, right?
I did.
And you've seen obviously the picture that came out in the New York Times of the governor with the woman, and he's sort of giving her a kiss and holding her. You see those?
I saw the picture, yes.
Did you see that happen, or have you just seen the pictures?
I don't believe I saw it while I was at the wedding.
Okay. And do you remember seeing the governor at the wedding?
I do.
Okay. And do you remember seeing him interact with anyone or do you remember seeing him interacting with people?
Not specifically.
Okay. You remember
other than with the bride and the groom when he performed the ceremony. But I don't remember specifically his interaction in the crowd.
If you can turn to tab 94. This is a text exchange that includes you, Annabelle Walsh, and Danny Liver. And it attaches pictures from that wedding. There's also Steph is in the photo too. Annabelle Walsh says, but just happy and blonde. Do you remember, were you in these pictures?
I vaguely remember this text message. I don't see myself in the picture.
Okay. And then you say, no, I'm not, where? And then you say, call lower, you say, can you call me together, please, please, please. You remember what the discussion was or why you wanted them to call you?
I don't remember.
Have you, and after the New York Times article about this wedding, did you speak to Gareth Rhodes?
Yes, I remember talking to Gareth.
Okay. When?
I don't remember exactly.
Was it shortly after the New York Times article?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Did you ask him to do anything like on that call?
I don't know that I asked him to do anything. I vaguely remember talking to him about the story. I don't remember the conversation.
Did you ask him to call the woman who was in the picture?
I don't remember if I did.
Did anyone ask you to do that?
I don't recall that.
Have you had any conversations with the governor about the wedding, Gareth Rhodes' wedding?
I don't specifically remember a conversation with the governor.
How about general?
There were general conversations, could have been Melissa, could have been the governor, could have been the press guys, about the fact that I specifically remembered that, you know, there's a billion pictures like this with people, all people at virtually any event he goes to.
Any other discussions?
Not that I remember about the wedding.
You know Karen Hinton, right?
I know Karen, not well, but yes.
Okay. And any discussions that you've had with the governor about Karen Hinton?
When Karen, I forget how Karen reported her claims, but when she did, he had asked me about a letter he recalled her sending to him that I think was thanking him for his help and his friendship after she had had
So he asked you about that letter?
Yes.
To pull it up or something? Or?
Yeah, to see if we could find it.
Okay. And were you able to find it?
I don't believe so.
Can you look at tab 41? Are you there?
I'm here, sorry.
Okay. So if you look at, this is an email from you to Alyssa McGrath from December 2019.
Yep.
And it looks like you asked her to format and print 2 letters for him, and then you have sort of the text of the 2 letters.
Yes.
Is this something that you sometimes did, sort of send substantive documents or letters and send it to Alyssa McGrath to type up or put into a letter format?
It's something that I have done, not specifically with Alyssa, could be with others.
And the people who play that role of Alyssa sort of helping out, and
Correct.
or your others.
Correct. Or, from time to time, I may just send the text of a letter to the correspondence office, who would format it and print it out.
Yeah. If you read the bottom part of the second letter, it looks like it's to Karen. It's about hope you're doing better, etc. Does that look to be the letter you were talking about?
No. So this looks to be a response.
Oh, you were looking. He was looking for the letter from Karen.
Correct.
And this is the response. I see. So you were not able to find the letter from Karen, but you were.
I was not.
Okay. And if you look at tab 43. It looks like Alyssa has the 4 letters to send out, and one of them is to Karen Hinton.
Yes.
So if you look at, if you go to tab 101, now, so that was December when it looks like he drafted, or you drafted, you and Alyssa put together a letter for him to respond to Karen Hinton's letter. Now in March, I think March 5th, this must be after the Karen Hinton allegations are public. He says, let's do this right on Hinton. Google what she said and see if we have the TY, I assume is thank you, letter she just sent me after her.
Yes.
Did you find it? So is this, these are the texts or pins from the governor asking you to find that letter, right? Or asking a group of you.
Correct.
If you go like 3, 4 pages in,
What's the base you're looking at?
18089
There you go.
Yes.
says, you write back, yes, I spoke with, is looking now. Who's,
She runs the correspondence bureau.
I see. So you were asked, you spoke to her to see if she can find this letter from Karen.
Correct.
If you can turn to, this is same day, March 5th, if you can turn to tab 104. And this is an email from, and there's a few emails from her or letters that were part of your production to us. Who is
She was considered to the when
and do you know her?
I do not know her.
Have you met her? Have you met her ever?
I've never met her. I've spoken to her on the phone once. I've exchanged emails with her over the course of time, but I haven't replied to any of her emails in a long time.
Does she regularly email you?
She does.
Okay. Why is she emailing you?
I don't know.
And what did you do when you get this? What did you do with this email when you got it?
Other than anything you could put a lawyer.
I don't know specifically what I did with each email. There are many of them, and there were times when I told the governor that I had emailed and the gist of the context to the extent that I could understand what she was saying. But that's what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
With
And what did the governor say when you told him about these emails and the gist of what she was saying?
I don't recall him saying anything.
He didn't say anything when you.
No, I think well, I'm not going to speak for him, but no, I don't recall him specifically saying anything.
Did he say what happened to her?
What happened to her?
Yeah, like what? At some point, she stopped working.
Well, yeah, I believe that the
Did he say anything about what the circumstances were or what the relationship was with her? She says a lot of things in these emails and
She
letters.
does, but honestly, from my perspective, it's always been a struggle for me to understand what she's really saying. But no, he has not. He has not ever talked to me about her, and you know that her tenure was far before my time.
Have you talked to anyone else about her other than the governor?
I've spoken to Linda Lacewell about her. Melissa is aware that she had sent a couple of these emails because I told her.
And what did Melissa say about her?
You know, frankly, that she's nuts.
Anything else?
Not that I recall specifically.
How about Linda Lacewell? What did she say?
Linda Lacewell was a conversation I had, I think, estimate, but fair to say early COVID. Was reaching out frequently. You know, as I recall it, first she had a connection for PPE. Then she was talking about many of her celebrity friends who could help in some way. At that point, I would respond from time to time and just express thanks. And then I vaguely recall at some point in that period, she sent me an email that affirmatively said she had asked someone to do something that, as I recall, it was in some way representing the governor or the administration. So I called Linda and said, can you please call and explain to her that she can't make any sort of arrangements on behalf of the state or the governor, certainly without going through us and having these situations fully vetted and understood. And I recall that I believe Linda reached her.
You told her that?
I don't know exactly what she told her, but that's the conversation I had with Linda.
And did Linda report back after her conversation with her?
I don't remember specifically. I imagine it was something like I spoke to her and it's taken care of. I do recall then that at some point emailed me saying, I didn't appreciate being phone banked by Linda Lacewell. So I guess that does tell me that they spoke.
You mentioned in this letter, do you know who that is?
I do,
You do?
yes.
Who's
My knowledge of her interaction experience is that she worked, I believe, on the 2020 governor's campaign. Since then, I think in that capacity was a fundraiser of sorts.
To the 2020.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2002.
Mhm.
That's how good my grasp of time is. So I was saying, I think this was also before my time, but I think at that time she was helping with fundraising for the campaign. Has been a long time Cuomo family friend. She will still attend an event from time to time.
Have you heard whether she has had a romantic or sexual relationship with the governor?
I had not, aside from what was written to me.
And other than what was written to you from, have you spoken to or discussed that with anyone?
About an alleged relationship with the governor?
Yes.
I've spoken to him about it. I think what he had said to me was that they went on a date at some point when he was single. And I have spoken with about it too. I don't believe I directly asked her. I think she volunteered that similarly they went on a date or two when he was single and when she was not working for him.
Mhm.
Other than that, I don't think I've discussed with anyone.
And why did you, how did you end up raising it with, how did it come up?
I called after one of these emails and I said, I just want you to know that I've received this email from and she's using your name. And she said, I know she is. I hear from her too. I also heard it from, I think she said, and I think she said,
I see. And then you also raised it with the governor after receiving one of these?
his whether or not he had a relationship with.
Yes.
No, that wasn't after these.
What was the context of that?
I don't remember. It may have been after one of the emails, but maybe a long time ago. I don't remember.
But he said all they just had gone on one date.
Yeah. He said we didn't have a relationship. We went on like one date. Described it to me, I think, as a couple of dates.
Okay, can we switch topics now and turn to Brittany Commisso? So when did you first meet Brittany Commisso?
I don't remember.
What's the first memory you have of her?
The first memory I have is her assisting John Majori, who was one of our policy people.
Okay, and what was her role working for John Majori?
She was his assistant, I believe.
Okay, and then what, did there come a point in time when Brittany Commisso started working more closely with the governor?
Well, the answer is yes. I mean, she was one of those people that we pulled from to help supplement.
So, how did that come about, where she was pulled to supplement?
I don't remember exactly.
Whose whose decision was it to have her come to supplement in that role?
I don't remember that either.
Were you part of it?
I don't remember. I mean, I don't remember. It's entirely possible.
Do you remember her coming and working with the executive chamber along with someone named?
I don't recall her coming with, but it makes sense because she also worked with John Majority.
What was her role?
I don't know exactly. I couldn't sit here and tell you her title, but I think she did substantive policy with Majority.
So you remember at some point Brittany Camiso playing that role of supplementing the executive assistants and helping?
Yes.
Okay. And where, when she was in the office in the Capitol, where did she sit?
She has sat from time to time in the what did I call it yesterday? The front office with at some point everybody moved and they were then based in the suite of offices across the hallway, which is where they all are now, I believe.
And what kind of work did Brittany Camiso do?
She did a lot of help on the phones, which she would take dictation from the governor from time to time.
And would she sometimes do that, help out at the mansion?
She has.
And was that during, I guess, and that was during the pandemic or COVID when the governor was working out of the mansion more?
Yes, she may have been during the pandemic. I don't remember when she first started. Well, in other words, I don't know if it would have happened pre-pandemic.
And how did you organize sort of weekend coverage for the governor when he was at the mansion?
The group of assistants would identify who was available when, and usually send me an email Friday afternoon so I knew. I don't know when exactly we started doing that. Before that, it was more like fly by the seat of your pants. Because on weekends, you don't know if it's going to be relatively quiet or if there's going to be a lot of stuff that he wants to get done. So if on a Saturday morning, I would get a call from him or a message saying, can you send somebody to the mansion? Then I would just like pick up the phone and start calling people to see who could get there the quickest. At some point, we got a little bit more organized about it, and they shared with me their weekend availability so I'd know who I could go to.
I see. So you would know who's available, and then would you still wait for the governor to say, I need someone before reaching out, or would you?
Yes.
I see. But then you would know who's available, so then you would call them and say.
A little less of a fire alarm.
And then once you knew who was going, would you alert anyone, like the troopers, or that they were coming to the mansion?
I would either call the troopers in advance, or when the person got there, the troopers would let me know, me and Melissa know that they were there, and we would say let them in or not.
And how would they communicate with you to say someone's here?
By PIN.
They would, sometimes you would tell them so-and-so's coming. Sometimes you might not. They'll just show up and then they'll pin you and Melissa and say, Brittany's here or Alyssa's here. And you'd respond, fine. Or do you even need to respond?
No, you do need to respond.
So you say, fine.
Fine, or yes, or send them in, or some sort of affirmative language.
And so when you, did you have the opportunity to observe Brittany Camisso's interactions with the governor?
Some, yes.
Yeah. And what kind of interactions did you observe?
I observed Brittany to be um, she just generally speaking first, I think that she's a very
He asked what kind of observation, what kind of activities did you observe?
what kind of activities?
No, what did you observe in terms of their interactions?
Interactions. It, they were friendly interactions. She was very friendly with him. She, I think, was, she was kind of like starry-eyed high school kid with her. Like she was a little bit starstruck. But she very much wanted to get to him when she could. She said things like, I heard her say that Italians are very affectionate people. She told me a story about, she showed me the newspaper clipping that her grandmother way back when had been quoted in this newspaper about Governor Mario Cuomo. And he, in terms of the interaction, he was very nice to her. He was friendly with her. He sort of responds to people, like a give and take a bit.
Mm-hmm. You said she was very friendly to him. Was she generally friendly to other people as well?
Yeah, she's a pretty friendly, bubbly personality, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And you said she would try to get in front of him, or I forget the exact phrase. What did you mean by that?
She would come into the office, with a cup of coffee that no one had asked for, try to walk right back there with it. She made it very clear on multiple occasions that she was interested, wanted to staff whenever possible in the office, on weekends.
And what did you do when she tried to go in with coffee or?
If I was able, I would take the coffee and bring it to the governor. If I was on the phone or something like that, tied up in that moment, I would say, could you drop it off to him?
And why would you try to take it in yourself?
No particular reason other than people don't need to be in and out of there needlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one else who I can think of who with this example ever brought him an unsolicited coffee.
And so she would come with coffee and say, I'd like to take coffee in?
It was more that she tried to just walk by with the coffee. And if I could, I would grab it from her.
And how many times did she try that?
I don't know. A few, at least.
And no one else would do that. No one else has done that. Try to give unsolicited coffee.
No, I mean, I have, but that's usually because I know his coffee schedule.
What's his coffee schedule?
We have a couple in the morning and maybe one in the afternoon.
And what typically interact?
I've seen them hug.
Yeah.
Um,
Where have you seen them hug?
I don't remember specifically.
In the office?
I can't say that I specifically remember them in the office, but I assume so.
Okay. What else have you seen? Have you seen them kiss
I don't recall seeing them kiss.
on the cheek? No.
I don't remember that, no.
Have you seen him touch her or her touch him?
Other than hugging?
Yeah.
I've seen photos of them. There's one particular photo that I remember from one of our office receptions where he is posing with her for a photo and has, I think, his hand on her waist.
Mm-hmm. That's just from the photos. You haven't seen him posing with pictures with Brittany.
I don't remember being there and seeing the picture taken, no.
Any other interactions, physical interactions that you recall between the governor and Brittany Camiso?
Not that I can recall.
How about conversations? Have you heard conversations between them?
I don't recall any specific conversations.
Other than sort of being friendly, any other observations? Did they flirt with each other?
I would describe her generally as flirtatious. And, you know, I don't know that I've observed the two of them in that way, but I think just as a general personality, she is a little flirtatious.
Would you describe the governor as flirtatious?
No, I would describe him as charming from time to time.
And what do you mean by charming?
Sort of welcoming, friendly, joking.
Do you remember at any point in March of this year when Brittany Camiso was supposed to be covering or was scheduled to cover the governor on a Saturday, but it was changed?
I generally remember that.
Yeah, what do you remember about that?
I think that the governor had told me that, I don't know if it was this instance where he said, let Brittany have the day and be with, or if it was the conversation I had with him where he was dictating something and had wanted to do it.
So it sounds like you remember at least two times where it was going to be Brittany, but someone else. One was Kid.
It could be, unless it's the same instance and I'm separating them.
Okay, and why don't we look at some pins that have been produced. If you look at tab 105, and this is a series of pins between you and the governor on March 6th. which was, I think, the weekend before the press conference on responding to the allegations, or some of the allegations. And you see from you, the first page says, is saying, I'm trying to find it. You know what that's a reference? And then there's some redactions here. So, you know, that this is from the executive chamber. So we don't know what's said in the redactions, but you obviously can talk about the rest of it. When you say, is saying, I'm trying to find, he writes no. You know what that's a reference to?
I think she was visiting.
I see. And you say, I'm trying to.
Mhm.
And he says no. And then if you look at the next page, it says, you say, I will come.
Yes.
And then he says, no, not you. It's a little hard to read, but this is the way they produced it. It's, you say, no, not you, and then redact it. And then he says, you say, next page, Brittany is on call today. Want her now? And she says, better, because he has a question mark. And then there's a sort of redaction from you about, and then he writes back, and then he says, better, and you say, I called, she can do it. I'm telling her to head there now.
Yes.
So can you sort of interpret this text chain for us?
Sure. Starting where? After
Starting after the, I assume it has nothing to do with
Right, correct.
Brittany or right?
So I will come had to be in response to him saying, send someone here.
Yeah.
No, not you. Is him saying he doesn't want me to come. I tell him Brittany's on call. He says better. And I think that is my interpretation of this is that it's based on what he wants to work on.
Do you remember what he wanted to work on?
I'm assuming it was dictation, and not that we have favorites, but is the stellar dictator.
Is he a better dictator than dictation taker?
He's very good. And she turns around the document very quickly.
And a bunch of these were redacted, or parts of these texts were redacted for privilege. Do you know what the subject matter was of? Because that part you can, and Greg, you can confirm this statement, but you are permitted to say what the subject matter was.
I can't tell from this.
You remember? Did you have any discussions with anyone in this time frame about whether or not Brittany should staff the governor?
No.
No discussions with anyone?
Staff the governor, period? No.
Yeah. Or on weekends at the mansion?
No. Not that I remember.
And was this at a time when you said generally you would not want a single person to staff the governor, but here it seems like he was sent alone, right?
Yeah.
And
I assume so, unless Melissa was there or someone else was there.
yeah,
Which is
how do you explain that? Is it just, how do you explain that?
I don't know that I can.
So it was something you tried to do, but couldn't always.
Right.
Anything else you remember about this exchange and having go instead of Brittany?
Nothing else I can think of.
Did you tell do you remember telling Tracy not to tell Brittany that she was going instead?
I do recall saying to you that he wants you to do the dictation, so don't make Brittany feel upset about the fact that he's choosing you.
And what did you say?
Okay.
You specifically remember saying, don't tell Brittany that he's asking you to do dictation? You specifically remember saying that it was dictation?
No, I suppose I can't say I specifically remember saying dictation, but that was the context of that conversation. Was
Do you remember the governor telling you that that's what he intended to do on March 6th? Dictation.
not specifically.
So then why? But you testified that that's what you think this was, right?
It is what I think it was.
So why do you think it was dictation?
Because, as I said, she's the stellar dictator. She's the go-to on dictation.
But it can be dictation or he can give handwritten notes, right?
He can do both, yes. But if he's decided to dictate something, we know that.
So do you think on March 6th you knew that that's what he was intending to do?
I think based on these text messages, I can say that I believed that that's why he said better.
You're interpreting, because he's saying, you're sort of interpreting or assuming it must be because of dictation.
That's correct.
Because the dictator.
Correct.
Not because you remember him saying, that's what I need.
I don't specifically remember that, no.
Any discussions you've had with the governor about Brittany Commisso at all?
Yeah, he has said to me on that one adamantly that he did not do what she is alleging.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get to what she alleged. But before moving away from the BlackBerry, it continues to say, if you keep going in the text pin chain, please see if you can get on the phone with me together this morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that's about?
Yeah. We're both staff members of his when he was secretary at HUD. My best recollection is that this is in response to the story being written about Karen Hinton. Karen Hinton was also a staff member at HUD, and he knew her, may still know her.
Was it your understanding that on this day, the work he was going to do related to the sexual harassment allegations that were made, either by Karen Hinton or someone else?
I don't know that I had an understanding of what it was. I don't remember.
Right, but that's one of the things that was going on at that time, March 6th.
Yes.
So I think if you go a few pages further, I think your speculation about Karen Hinton is right, because I think if you go to 8072, he's talking about the reporter Amy Brittain 20 years ago. She never said anything. Karen publicly said Clinton solicited her. Why didn't she say me? It's all from the same day.
Yes.
All right, so when did you first learn about the allegations that
Before we do the Brittany piece, I don't know how long it's going to be. We've been going for an hour and change, so can we take another break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break. So you want to say noon?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Off the record at 11:50. This marks the end of media unit number 2. We are back on the record at 12:02. This marks the beginning of media unit number 3. Thank you.
Ms. Benton, so when do you remember first learning about the allegations that Brittany Commisso was making against the governor?
The day before the Times Union article was published.
Okay. How did you learn it?
I think Melissa called me directly and told me.
Okay. What did she tell you?
That there would be a story alleging further claims by another person. She knew it was Brittany. She told me it was Brittany. And before the article was published, the incidents described from the reporter to us were that the claimant was saying he had slammed the door, threw her up against the wall, and groped her.
And Melissa DeRosa was reporting to you what the reporter was saying?
Correct.
Did she say that? Did she say whether others within the executive chamber had reported it as well to Judy Mogul?
Yes, I'm aware that Judy knew. I had a conversation with Judy. I don't think it was that day. I think it was after the article or the day of the article. Judy called me and said, this claimant is anonymous. We know that it's Brittany. You have to understand that nothing can change as far as Brittany is concerned in her job responsibilities. Said I understood that. So to answer your question, was Judy aware?
Or did you, I guess I'd ask the question because you said you first learned about it from Melissa, who was reporting what a reporter had said.
Correct.
But then my follow-up question was, did you also learn that Judy had heard, not from a reporter, but from others within the executive chamber?
What I recall is that.
Did you hear that others in the executive chamber
Yes.
had?
Yeah, what did you hear about that?
But I want to be clear, I don't remember if it was Judy.
I see.
I had heard that Brittany was having drinks with the other women that she works with. I think she was there, and I believe Alyssa, at which point she told them of allegations. I don't know specifically what she said.
And how did you hear that? And who did you hear that from?
I think Melissa told me that.
And so Melissa, that in the same conversation, she told you about what the reporter was saying, or different conversations?
I don't recall.
And then, did you have any conversations that involved the governor about the allegations of groping? And I guess it wasn't specifically tied to Brittany Commisso, but it sounds like people knew it was her.
Yeah, my understanding, separate and aside from my own knowledge, is that it is widely understood. Not prior to the news report.
Okay, how about after the news report?
Yes, after the news report, he had said to me, this is absolutely untrue.
And by this, what did he mean?
The allegations.
Because did you read the allegations?
Yes, I read them.
And so there was the groping allegation of the breast, but there was also allegations of hugs, sort of close hugs, and things like that. Did you have any discussions with the governor that addressed the specific allegations that were in the?
No, not individually.
So sort of the groping allegation was the one that you understood him to be denying.
I understood him to be denying everything that she was claiming.
Mm-hmm. Because there was also an allegation that they took a selfie together in the office and that he grabbed her butt. There were the hugs. So, in addition to the groping, there was other things. Trying to understand whether you had conversations with the governor about any of the allegations.
On the selfie, yes. I remember him saying to me specifically on the selfie that she asked him to take a selfie.
Mm-hmm. Did he say anything about the allegations in there about how he told her not to share it with anyone other than Alyssa McGrath?
Yeah, he said that did not happen.
So did you go sort of through the whole article with
Well,
him?
to be fair, I'd want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But as you list each one, I can say yes or no. We talked about that one specifically.
And so did you actually go through it?
I didn't read the article with him, no.
I see. But you remember him saying, denying essentially everything in it, other than the selfie.
Denying that he asked her to take a selfie, not that they took one. Denying certainly that he groped her, denying that he touched her butt. I don't think he did not deny, I don't think he would. I would not, that he never hugged her. And I'm not recalling additional claims at this moment.
How many conversations did you have with the governor about Brittany?
I don't know.
Several, many, or few?
Maybe a couple.
Anything else that he told you other than denying the things that you've mentioned?
I don't recall anything specifically. I don't recall anything specifically.
Okay. Did you talk, for example, about the fact that she had been scheduled to staff him, the Saturday before, but that did instead?
Did we talk about that?
Yeah.
I don't remember talking about that other than the pin that we looked at.
Any discussions about whether she should continue to staff the governor?
Yeah, we talked about that.
So what did you talk about?
That it was sort of a tricky situation because we had to proceed as if none of this had happened vis-a-vis her employment. But also, you know, is it a situation where she can do her job effectively without necessarily being in direct contact with him, if that was an option? And the answer is that she can, and he can. And he's been in the office very little. He's working really out of the mansion or traveling, so it hasn't been an issue at all.
So you've had those conversations with the governor?
I don't know if I've spoken to him directly about that. That's more Melissa and myself talking about her being comfortable, him getting the job, him being able to work productively.
How about weekend mansion coverage? Who's been providing that?
I can't remember the last time we had weekend mansion coverage.
So on weekends, what do you do? Is he not working anymore, or?
No, that's never the case. I just can't remember the last time that there was the need for that type of staffing of him at the mansion, you know, the dictation type of situation.
So it's not always he needs someone there.
Correct.
And so you don't remember there being a need since that time when he was sent?
I don't specifically remember. There may have been, but I don't remember.
Have you had any conversations with about Brittany Camisso's allegations?
I have not.
How about Alyssa McGrath?
No.
Okay. Anyone else you've spoken to about other than your lawyer?
Well, only the conversations I mentioned to you earlier with Judy and Melissa, to the best of my recollection.
How about Beth Garvey?
Well, when I said to you before
It was Beth.
that I didn't know if it was Judy, that's when I was thinking I thought it was Beth.
So that may have been Beth, that conversation.
Correct.
Any conversations that you had about reporting Brittany's allegations to Goer?
Not that I have.
Do you know if it was reported to Goer?
I do not know.
And then did you play a role? Well, why don't we, can you turn to tab 14? Oh, sorry, 114. So this is an email that originates from you, and it types, as I said yesterday, I've never done anything like this. The details of this report are gut-wrenching and completely untrue. I'm not allowed to defend myself publicly because of the review, but I'm confident in the results of the Attorney General's report. See that?
Yes.
And that's you sending it and typing it. What do you think this is, this statement? And why is it that you send it?
This is something that he sent to me, and I assume gave me the people he wanted me to send it to.
You think he sent it to you, or you're dictating it, or?
No, you can tell when it's a copy and paste from him because it's pretty choppy, but no, it appears as though I typed it.
I see. So this does not look like a copy and paste?
No.
How do you think he read this to you, or gave it to you in handwritten notes, or he could be either?
Yeah, I don't think he would have written such a short statement.
I see. So how would it have happened that you would have gone into his office and he would have?
I'm assuming, but yeah, I suspect that's what that is.
And then he'd say, send this to Steve and copy so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so.
Yes.
And then you see Steve Cohen writes back, take out completely untrue, Rich A version. You remember Steve Cohen saying to take out completely untrue?
You mean, do I remember this email?
Yeah.
No, not specifically.
You remember, separate from this email, Steve Cohen suggesting that you take out completely untrue.
I don't.
Any discussions you remember about that topic?
No.
And then something like this. So you type it up from the governor, you send it to the people he asks. Then there's exchanges. And then do you report to the governor each of the exchanges? Because he's not on them again, right? So do you tell him, Steve Cohen says, take out this, Melissa says, do this or that, or do you wait?
Generally, we work on consensus. So when the group that received this comes to consensus, then I would give it back to him and see if he signs off on it.
Okay. But it's not like a real-time conveying of every response.
Generally, no.
Okay. So if you turn to 144, which is the same day, it's a little out of order, but and this time it looks like you send on a text a screenshot of essentially the same statement from, looks like someone's computer screen, probably yours. And
Yeah.
then as a party says, can you send it on my exec email? What do you, looking at this, can you interpret sort of what's going on here and why you're sort of separately sending it through
I can.
text on the phones?
I can.
Okay.
This is a screenshot of a laptop. Well, a laptop? I assume it's a laptop. And I did it in this way because I was at the mansion and not on my executive email.
See, so were you at the mansion because you were staying there, or were you there to work, or this is March 10th?
No, I was not staying there.
So you had been called to the mansion to work with the governor there.
Presumably, yes.
Okay. And if you actually go a little further in second page, Steve Cohen sends the same or similar suggestion, drop untrue, whereas I've never done anything like this, and this is gut wrenching. He says drop the completely untrue part. Does that jog your memory about any discussions you had about why dropping untrue?
Doesn't know.
And then on the next page, Azzopardi says, Seth, can you make sure he sees this? I am running out of time.
Yes.
What's that a reference to?
Do you want my interpretation?
Yes.
Do you remember?
No, I don't specifically remember any of this.
Okay, now you can interpret this.
Oh.
What's your interpretation looking at the text?
My interpretation is that Rich was responding to a story, and this statement, which is really just a sentence, is the response that we are discussing giving to whatever the reporter is. And reporters have deadlines, so that's as a party's reference to running out of time.
And make sure he sees this is a reference to showing it to the governor, make sure he's okay with it.
Yes.
Is that generally the case, like before statement goes out? At
Yes,
least from him, that he needs to look at it, say,
Yeah.
okay. Is it true for all general statements from the office executive chamber generally, or anything attributed to him personally?
I can't say all general chamber releases, but many.
Certainly anything that's his voice, like when it's I, or it coming from him.
No, not only.
Not only, but more than that. Right, I'm saying certainly those,
Certainly, yes, sorry.
yes, but
Certainly
also most statements coming out of the executive chamber, period.
Yeah, well, most is probably right. I would say many.
Yeah. Okay. Any discussions about Brittany Camiso and her allegations that, I haven't covered, or that you haven't had an opportunity to tell me about because of questions?
I don't recall any other conversations about her. There are conversations I had with her prior to the allegations.
And what conversations have you had with her?
There were two specific conversations. One was in December, just before Christmas. She asked to speak with both Melissa and myself, and volunteered that, basically verbatim, I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning. This is my dream job. And just said she was so thrilled and happy with this job and couldn't imagine doing anything else. And we told her that she was doing a great job and we were happy to have her. There was a second conversation, I believe, about a week and a half-ish to 2 weeks before her allegations were reported in the Times Union, where she said to me that she wanted me to know that she was that she had that she'd be needing to leave during the week when she had to pick up from school, and that she was she wanted me to keep her in mind for any future overtime staffing. I told her that I was sorry about her situation and we would try to make it all work out. But I wanted to share those with you.
Anything else?
No, those are the two conversations I had with her. I don't recall any other specific conversations about her.
Or other people talking about her?
No.
So have you spoken to her directly since their allegations?
I have.
Okay. And how have they been?
They've been fine. Hi, how are you? I call her Britt. She calls me Steph. They've been fine.
Okay, can we talk about Alyssa McGrath? So when did you first meet Alyssa McGrath?
I don't remember.
How did her hiring come about in the executive chamber?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, so at some point, it wasn't you.
It wasn't me. And on Alyssa, I actually really have never had a tremendous amount of interaction with her. So I'm going to be really fuzzy on this one.
Yeah. And why is it that with her, you did not have a lot of interaction?
She's really only helped in this capacity, I'd say, a handful of times.
What's her regular job?
I'm embarrassed to say I actually don't know, but I think she's on the other side of the floor.
Mm-hmm. And so you don't know the origins of how it came about that she started helping out?
I don't.
Okay. But at some point, was she one of the people that you could reach out to help?
She was one of the people that we would ask to help when we needed assistance on phone coverage. I think we tried Alyssa once or twice with dictation, and it didn't. I don't really think it's her thing, which, is fine. But her, in her capacity helping, it was for phone coverage.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you find out that her dictation wasn't as good?
Well, he told me that.
He said, I don't think it's, what did he say?
I don't remember exactly.
And then as a result, did you not have her go to the mansion as much or cover for what might be dictation?
Yeah, I believe so.
Any other conversations you had with the governor about Alyssa McGrath?
Not that I can recall.
Did you ever observe the governor and Alyssa McGrath interacting?
I don't remember any specific interactions with them.
Have you seen them hug
I don't know that I have.
or kiss?
No.
Pictures?
She's in that picture that I
Same picture
referenced earlier with Brittany at a reception, yes.
That's the one where he has both
Yes.
them. Okay. Other than that, observe any physical interactions, holding, hugging, anything like that?
Not that I can recall.
Any discussions with Melissa DeRosa about Alyssa McGrath?
Not that I recall.
And then what have you read the reporting of the allegations she has made?
Yes, I did.
Did you discuss those allegations with the governor?
I don't remember discussing those now.
With anyone else?
Not specifically. I also don't specifically in this moment remember what those allegations are. Oh, I think she said that he tried to look down her blouse, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
One of them.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else about Alyssa McGrath?
No, I don't really have anything there.
Okay. Anna Liss, you know Anna Liss?
Barely.
Okay. What do you remember? What do you know about her?
She assisted in some way Howard Glazer when Howard was director of state operations. I really don't know much about her. The way the office is set up, there's a door on both sides of Melissa's office. The door furthest for me on the side of her office opens up into the suite for state operations. There were times that I would walk through that suite and literally say hello to her. I mean, other than that, I don't really know her.
Did you observe any interactions between her and the governor?
I don't recall any interactions.
Have you seen him touch her in any way?
I don't recall seeing that, no.
Kiss her?
No, I don't recall seeing him kiss her.
Kiss her hands?
Not that I saw.
You ever hear him call her sweetheart?
I do not recall hearing that.
Is that something he does, the governor, call people sweetheart or honey?
Yes, he does.
Who does he call sweetheart or honey?
Any number of people.
A lot of people. And women.
Yes,
Does he call you sweetheart or honey?
he has, yes.
Do you remember whether he asked, you heard him ask her whether she had a boyfriend? Analyst.
Did I hear him ask her that?
Yeah.
No.
Is that something that the governor does too? You've heard him ask people whether they have girlfriend, boyfriend?
Yes, I've heard him ask that.
Like to whom?
I don't recall specifically.
Have you heard him ask people about their sex lives?
No,
No. Or talk about people's sex lives?
not that I can recall.
So it doesn't sound like on a list. Do you remember after her allegations, were you part of any discussions?
Not that I recall.
Anything else about Annalise?
No, I just really don't have anything there either.
Do you remember in March learning that Ronan Farrow was doing a piece on the allegations?
I do.
And what was your role in responding to those?
I did not have a role in responding to his report, other than I believe that was the article where Lindsay Boylan said the governor made fun of my haircut. So my role was to approve the response that the press office was sending from me.
Right. Okay, we talked about that
Yeah.
yesterday. Can you turn to 120? Tab 120. And this is an email exchange with a number of people.
Have 120?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't have a 120. I have two 121s. Okay. I'll go with the first 121.
First 121 is probably 120.
Got it.
So it's March 14, 2021.
Gotcha. 10:35 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is an email exchange where looks like the press office sort of writes statements or allegations or things that are going to be in the Ronan Farrow piece, fact checking, and then you look at there are draft responses, and Ms. Benton, you are on the email exchange, including other people. But if you look at the second to last email here from Beth Garvey, she writes, "We don't have to make news with that answer. It can be spun as retaliatory." And Melissa DeRosa, in her last email, pushes back, retaliatory how, et cetera, et cetera. Do you remember any discussions or communications around whether the way in which the executive chamber responded to the reporter could be retaliatory or considered retaliation?
I don't remember any specific conversation.
Do you remember any discussions ever in connection with the sexual harassment allegations where there was questions about, retaliation? Are we, would we be retaliating if we did something or another or other?
I don't remember specific conversations.
How about generally conversations about retaliation?
No, I mean, I told you about the conversation I had with Judy where she informed me of Brittany's situation.
And that you can't retaliate, right?
Correct. I don't remember conversations about retaliation
Okay.
that I participated in. And I don't remember reading this.
It's not necessarily the case. It's just because you're on it, you would read all these emails.
That's correct.
You would kind of wait for a consensus before, if you are supposed to run it by the governor.
Yeah, I mean, there would be no. The only reason I'm on this is that there's the one line where I'm involved. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have bothered to read all of this stuff.
You get 121, which is a pin from that same day, slightly earlier in the day. You say going to push 115 a little bit, group on phone, Ronan article, now includes some of the 115. Was the governor on the calls that were where you were talking about responding to the Ronan Farrar article?
No, as evidenced, I would argue by this pin.
Yeah, so this pin suggests there's a 115 call that he has, but you're pushing it off because the Ronan call is going late, and there's some people on that. Is that a fair reading of this pin?
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Can you turn to tab 155? This is also from, I think we put the title just as Q&A, but it's from, I think, the hard drive of your computer or some part of the executive chamber computer system that's affiliated with you. So it looks like a Q&A draft relating to allegations of sexual harassment, including Charlotte Bennett and Lindsay Borland and Anna Ruck and others. Do you remember what this document is?
It looks like preparation for a Q&A that he would have done at a press conference.
Do you remember being a part of sort of prep sessions for Q&A, press conference Q&As?
I do not.
Do you remember if there was a prep session that was done up at the mansion in Albany in March before his first press conference?
There was, I don't remember which press conference, but yes, there was at the mansion with a group of people.
Mm-hmm. And were you there when they were prepping him?
I was here, and I recall being in and out. I mean, it's not something I participate in.
Okay. All right. I think you can put that to the side. So over the years that you've worked with the governor, have you heard him speak harshly to people?
I've heard him speak very directly to people. Harsh. What do you
mean by directly?
He cuts to the chase. He says what he wants, and he expects it to be done.
Have you heard him yell at people?
I've heard him raise his voice. It's not a frequent. It's not a frequent behavior for him.
Has he yelled at you?
I'm sure he has at some point.
Have you heard him insult people?
Insult. I don't know. I mean, it's such a general term. How do we want to qualify insult?
How about this? Have you heard him threaten anyone?
No, I don't believe I have.
Have you heard the audio of him where he says he'll compare someone to a child molester?
I don't think I ever listened to that. Was that was reported?
Yeah, that was in the New York
ever...
Times podcast or something.
I know what you're referencing, but I don't think I ever listened to that.
Have you ever heard him compare someone to a child molester or threaten to do that?
No, I haven't.
Anything like that you've heard him?
Not that I can recall.
Have you ever seen or heard him throw anything at anyone? Heard of him throw anything at anyone?
I don't think I've ever seen him throw anything. He He will play catch in the office sometimes or kick the soccer ball. I don't think I've seen him throw anything.
Like, have you ever heard that he threw a computer speaker at someone?
I don't think so.
Okay, how about fruit? Throwing fruit?
Fruit is what he tends to play catch with.
So if there's is there like a fruit bowl there?
Yes, the fruit basket in the what did they call it? The front office
In Albany or in both?
in Albany.
And he throws that, he plays catch with people.
He does from time to time.
How about not for catch, but to throw it?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
You've said you haven't heard him comment or question people about their sex lives.
I don't remember that happening.
How about any sexually suggestive jokes or comments?
I don't think sexually suggestive.
Have you ever heard him joke when he heard someone was pregnant, say, "I'm not the father"?
I don't think I have.
Okay. Have you heard him comment on the size of his hands?
No, I don't think I have.
Have you ever heard him joke that he legalized sodomy?
No.
Have you ever heard him joke about the Emmy statue and how the figure of the Emmy statue? You know, he won the Emmy.
Yes, yes. The figure of the
Yeah,
statue.
how buxom it is, or and the lady is. No.
I have not heard that.
Okay. We've talked about the Valentine's Day flowers, and you said, at least in 2017, you first came up with the list, and you may or may not have shown it to the governor. Is that a fair
Yeah.
description? Was that every year? Would you come up with a list, or would it vary?
Yeah, that's my recollection. That would be something that, was part of my day. I also just want to be clear for what it's worth. It wasn't every year. Like, I don't remember doing it last year. I don't know if we did it the year before.
And when you did it, would you run by the list, the governor?
I may have.
Did he sometimes add people
I don't remember that.
or take people out?
I don't remember that.
How about perfume? Has he or you gotten perfume for staff, female staff members?
Not that I'm aware of.
So you haven't purchased perfume on either his or the office's behalf for female staffers?
Not that I recall.
Have you ever heard him talk about tattoos?
I have heard him talk about tattoos.
Okay. On what occasions have you heard him talk about tattoos?
I think in a variety of occasions. He at some point had a temporary tattoo that she tricked him into thinking it was real. He watches a lot of shows on car, picks up with possibly a mechanic who has tattoos. Look at that guy's tattoo.
How about any recollection of the governor meeting someone at an event who had a tattoo and looking her up, asking people to look her up through the pictures?
No, I had heard that rumor, but I have no knowledge of that.
You remember a Super Bowl party in 2017 at Dorian's?
Bacon.
Did you go to that?
I don't believe I did.
And that's, I think, where at least there's been some reporting of someone with a tattoo, a dove tattoo, and the governor talking to someone with a dove tattoo. Any recollection of any discussions like that?
No, no recollection for me.
Have you been in the pool at the mansion?
I have
How often?
couple of times.
Twice? Or?
Yeah, maybe like between 2 and 5 times.
So when you were there during the pandemic, did you go in the pool?
Yeah, that's primarily when the times that I'm talking about. His daughters were living here at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been in the pool with his daughters in a little bit of free time.
And then have you ever been in the pool, or have there been any parties or events where you and others jumped in the pool?
Yes.
Yeah, can you tell us about that?
I can't tell you what year it was, but there was a gathering. I'm going to assume post session, just given the weather up here. But it was that sort of like end of a cycle gathering. Was secretary, senior staff, a couple of more junior staff, and a majority of the attendees all jumped in the pool fully clothed.
Were you one of them?
Yes.
Was the governor there?
I'm not positive that he was there at that point. He may have been.
Did he jump in the pool?
No.
Any other incidents where you jumped in the pool, or
That's what I
clothed, or that's the one time you remember?
Yeah.
Can you look at tab 108? And this is sort of a text chain. Someone's, I guess, a reporter or someone is asking, mansion parties 2015 got rowdy, was picked up drunk and naked. Do you remember any event or incident like that where was drunk and naked?
I don't.
Did you hear about it at all? Do you remember this text chain or having discussions about it?
I don't remember it.
Have you heard the term mean girls used in the executive chamber?
I have.
In what context?
There was a text chain that I think included myself, Annabelle, Danny, Jill, and Melissa. It's my best recollection, with Andrew Ball. And I believe Ball named the text chain Mean Girls.
Okay. If you look at tab 24. I think that's at least one of the text chains, and it says name Mean Girls. Does that look like the people?
Sorry, I'm not there just yet.
All right, 24.
Yep.
Did the governor ever use the term Mean Girls?
I don't remember him saying Mean Girls.
Mm-hmm. Did other people, other than just being the name of a text chain, have you heard people refer to this group or any other group as Mean Girls within the executive chamber?
I've read that they do. No one's ever said it to me aside from all labeling it as such.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to me directly.
Were there times in New York City where the governor sometimes slept in the office in New York City?
He has a couple of times, I think.
Yeah. And then how does he do that? You set up, like, is there a bed there?
There's a couch that I think pulls out.
And have you been asked to get bedding for that at times, and have you?
I have. I wasn't asked to.
Okay, you did that.
I
Or
didn't. He didn't ask me to, if that's the question. He was surprised when I brought it to the office.
What was he doing before that without the bedding?
I don't know that he slept in the office before that.
I see. Have you, I know I asked you yesterday about rumors about, and yourself, have you heard of any other rumors about the governor having any relationships with any members of staff or the state employees?
I've heard lots of rumors. I think there's been rumors about him for a long time in different roles. I think it's been a rumor. I think it's been a rumor. I think there were people in the AG's office that were rumors.
So, but do you have any basis to know whether or not there's any truth to that?
I don't believe there's any truth to that.
Why not?
Well, I know very well, and I don't believe there's any truth to it. I've never seen any, certainly never seen any evidence of it.
Have you spoken to her about it?
I don't know that I have.
How about the governor?
No, I don't know that I have. It's just one of those things that's like generally understood, I think, or generally thought.
How about?
Do I have any basis?
Yeah.
I have no evidence or knowledge of that rumor being more than a rumor.
Have you ever seen them interact in any way that's not professional or not purely a professional relationship?
Well, when you say purely professional, he interacted with much like he interacts with a lot of people. I mean, they've hugged. He's kissed her on the cheek. I've seen no evidence of any physical relationship.
Has he kissed her on the lips?
Not to my knowledge.
Not that you've seen.
Not that I've seen.
Okay. If we can pause for a second, or I'll ask my colleagues who are on if they have any other questions. I think I'm coming to a close, and we can either go off record or could end it here. I said I will give you an opportunity, Ms. Benton, to, if you want to give a short sworn statement if you want. If there's anything else you want to add, we can do that. But unless my colleagues have other questions, I think that does it for me. Andrew, Charlotte? You're on mute, Andrew, but it looks like you're saying no.
Yeah, no.
And we're not making any sworn statements today.
Okay.
Although I'm sure you'd love to hear me go on and on for another, maybe another couple hours.
Yes, but I want to go eat lunch, so there'll be no sworn statements today.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I know it's, it went a while, but we appreciate it, and thanks.
Thank you. And thank you again for the personal courtesy from last week.
No problem. No problem.
This concludes today's testimony given by Stephanie Benton, as stipulated by all parties. The total number of media units used was 3 and will be retained by Veritex Legal Solutions, New York. We are off the record at 12:57.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.